Why franchise? Hi there, I'm Julie Turner with Paragon Franchise Consulting, and I'm here today to start a new series. Get excited, I'm super excited. So, our new series is going to be introducing people from the franchise world that are participating in the industry in very different ways. Today, we have our first guest, so no pressure. This is Drew Chalfant, and he is a lawyer. And I'm going to let him tell you how he got started in the franchise world and how he participates today. So, Drew, thank you so much for being here.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, if
So,
you would,
go ahead.
I was going to say, if you would, maybe start with what your position is now and how you got started in the industry in general, because I know it's been quite the tour.
Sure, absolutely. So my name's Drew Chalfant. I'm the managing partner for Rhoda Chalfant Franchise Law. So at our core, we're a law firm. We are hyper focused in the franchise space, though. Pretty much all we do is work with franchisors who are looking to go to market as a franchise for the first time, or if they're already an established franchisor, making sure that they have the proper legal support they need to grow confidently at whatever speed is right for them and for the system growth that they're looking to achieve. Prior to starting the law firm, I cut my teeth in the franchise world. I was still in law school at the time. I was actually shaking margaritas for a living at a little bar, a little taqueria and tequila place in downtown Cincinnati. There was a guy that would come into the bar a couple nights a week. He was very well dressed, but he always looked very frazzled. And he was usually coming in at like 10 o'clock at night, looking like he had just got out of the office. One thing leads to another. He's an attorney working for this company, and I'm a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed law student who's in hyper networking mode. And over a series of conversations, I kind of learned what it was that he did. So he was working in-house for a company that did franchise sales and development for a variety of brands. And one of the reasons why he was so flustered was they had also elected to, so they were doing, outsourced sales and development for brands, but they also decided to launch a brand of their own. So they took two kind of, we'll call them mom and pop indoor cycling studios, so cycling fitness studios, kind of took the best of their operations, gave them a new kind of, national look and feel, gave them a new name, and launched that company as a franchise opportunity. And that company was called Cycle Bar. So he's frazzled. He's got more work than he can handle. I'm not looking to shake margaritas for the rest of my life, as much as I enjoyed it. That's part of why I was in law school, right? So I end up, in the proverbial mailroom there at the franchise development firm as we're just launching Cycle Bar. Flash forward a couple of years, graduated from law school, sat for the bar exam. All the while, I was still working with the franchise development firm, and Cycle Bar was continuing to grow, as well as the other clients that we were representing for sales and development support. Passed the bar, ended up in the legal department as a full-fledged attorney with that group. And right as I got notice that I had received my law license, the company was for sale, or we were an acquisition target. Cycle Bar was an acquisition target for a very large fitness conglomerate that was just being formed. So what they did was, the company's called Exponential Fitness. They took Cycle Bar and they married it together with another brand that our sales and development firm was representing called Club Pilates. They took those two brands, put it under the Exponential Fitness umbrella, and then they went on a shopping spree, and they went and acquired a bunch of other brands, all of them relatively similar. But what was different about each brand was what was the actual fitness discipline that was represented at the store level. So with Cycle Bar, they had a cycling brand. With Club Pilates, they had a Pilates brand. Then they went and acquired, an indoor rowing brand, a dance fitness brand, a yoga brand, and so on and so forth. And now they're a publicly traded company. They're the 8,000-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to boutique fitness franchising. When they had acquired Cycle Bar, they also acquired the development firm. And after a couple of years, the development firm kind of just by election of the owners, they said, you know what, I think we've had a good run, but I think we're ready to kind of fold it in and look at our next opportunity. That freed myself up and my partner, Joe Rhoda, who was one of the original founders of the development firm, one of the original founders and owners of Cycle Bar, also an attorney. He called me in 2020 and said, you know, I'm too young to retire, and frankly, I'm just bored. I'm just sitting around all day doing nothing. Would you, you know, we know everybody in the industry. We've got this unique experience in development, sales, system ownership, operations. Like we've done it before, right? And then add to that, we've got our law degrees and we know how to draft these documents in a way that are both legally sound, but then also geared to actually sell franchises and actually build a franchise system. So that's what we did. We launched Rhoda Chalfant Franchise Law in August of 2020 with a goal to bring that development, sales, and operations framing to the legal chops that we have, and go to market as a franchise focused law firm that brings more than just the legal stuff for us. You know, we pride ourselves on being franchise development professionals who happen to have JD after our names, right? We happen to go to law school. We're not lawyers who know a thing or two about franchise development. At our heart and core, we're franchise development people, and we just happen to have law degrees. So it's been a great couple years, and we've had the opportunity to help over 100 franchisors go to market in the last 2 years, and we're looking forward to working with many more in the future.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That brings up so much for me. One of the first things that came up is I love people's story. I love to understand why they are where they are. And it's never as simple as I just set out to get a job. You met somebody at your, in a bar, so to speak.
Yeah.
And for myself, how did I meet Drew? Well, I was in Atlanta at a small business event and met a woman who has nothing to do with franchises who said, Drew is an amazing franchise attorney and you need to connect with him. And that's how we got here. So it's, there's much more to the story. I can make it much more colorful than that. However, that is the basic. And it's like, wow, so interesting. I think we don't put enough emphasis on our stories, on our backstory. But the other thing is, what I love about what you guys do and with your background is, as you said, you are franchise professionals that just happen to be lawyers, whereas I run into so many people helping people purchase a franchise more often than not. And my friend's a lawyer, and they looked at the document, the FDD, and they said, ask this, do this, blah, blah, blah. But they don't understand franchise law. So they're, trying to poke holes in something that is quite basic for the franchise industry. And it makes people a little bit worried, right? So not saying that you shouldn't ask questions, 100% you should, and you should have a lawyer look at it. However, if the lawyer doesn't understand franchise, I'm sure that you've run into this. I'm sure that you've run into people that have gone to other lawyers that may or may not even work in the industry and have come to you and said, so I saw you smile and nod your head. So therefore there is a story there. What came up for you when I asked that?
Yeah, I think, exactly like you described, right? So, it's a smaller part of our practice, but we do assist with franchisee, like if they need help kind of, cutting through the legalese and understanding, hey, what am I actually signing myself up for here? What are my exposures here? And, so we do reviews of franchise disclosure documents and franchise agreements on the franchisee side. We always try to manage expectations, though, because, to your point, if not everything in a franchise agreement is going to be negotiable, or at least franchisors who are well counseled. There are certain things that, they're going to be left at somewhat of a take it or leave it, right? Mm-hmm. And it's for the The strength of a franchise system is it's a collective entity, right? I mean, so if you have every single franchisee, if you've got 50 franchisees who have 50 different agreements and everybody's got a special side deal, I mean, from the point of, administering your franchise system, it becomes an absolute nightmare. And I mean, just from, just basic fairness and equity, right? I mean, if you have all your franchisees in a room together and this person got this deal and that person got this deal, I mean, part of the beauty of a franchise system is uniformity. That's what you're buying into, right? So when we're doing franchisee side reviews, we always try to manage expectations and say, look, we're going to interpret this for you. We're going to let you know what you're agreeing to, what you're signing up for here. If the franchisor has gone too far in a certain area, or if they've gone off market, then those kind of things are going to be things that we bring up and we have a discussion about. But if the expectation here is that we're going to go through this, 30, 40, 60 page franchise agreement, and we're going to redline every single paragraph, and we're just setting ourselves up it's just a bunch of spilled ink is at the end of the day, because we know the franchisor is going to say, and this is what we counsel on the franchisor side too. If someone comes to us and they've got, 40 pages all marked up, we will go right back to the franchisee or the consultant or broker and say, give us your three most important things. Like, we're just, guys, we can't go through and make all, like, there was a lot of time, energy, and effort that went into structuring this agreement the way that it's structured. A lot of it has been benchmarked against industry standards. And, it's a tough pill to swallow when someone's, looking to become a franchisee. The franchise relationship is very interesting. It's part marriage, it's part business partners, it's part employer employee at times. It can feel like all of those things, sometimes discreetly and sometimes simultaneously. So we counsel them that, you guys just bring us the things that are most important to you. We'll work through them, but it's some things are take it or leave it. So I've to the specific story. I mean, I've sat on those calls where we have a franchisee went to their local business attorney. It's the first time they've ever seen a franchise agreement. They treat it, they see it and they say, well, this is a contract. Contracts, let's mark it up. Oh, this is extremely one-sided. It's very one-sided. And yet franchise agreements are one-sided agreements. They very heavily benefit the franchisor. There's an element of, what can the franchisor do versus what are they going to do that comes into play. Absolutely. And if we ever have, when we're working on the franchisor side, when we have franchisee candidates who are saying, I don't understand how you get anyone to ever sign this, our counterpoint is always, the reason it's drafted this way, the reason why there's this really nasty hammer in here is because when your neighboring franchisee one territory over decides that they don't want to follow the franchise system and they want to sell fried chicken at their McDonald's, or they want to say, hey, our window washing business now also hangs gutters on houses, and they want to step outside the system in a way that damages your investment. Don't you want us to have those hammers to drop? We're not just going to, the idea here is not just because we have all of these rights and remedies, we're not just going to go around, bashing everybody over the head on every little time they step out of line, but we need those remedies in there. You want those remedies in there, because if all of the franchisees can just run completely amok and do whatever they want, then the value of the entire system goes down and the value of your individual franchise territory goes down by proxy.
I love that. That just makes it so clear. When you were saying it's part marriage, and we always tell people, like, this is a commitment. This is likely a 10-year commitment. There are a few that are 5-year, but this is likely a 10-year commitment. So you are getting married. You are a business partner. You are, as you said, employee, employer, and those roles flip. A lot of people don't understand that the franchisor often is the employee, that they're the ones that are doing the marketing. They're the ones so you have them as a resource to go and say, this is what I need. So it makes them the employee. And sometimes it feels the other way around. But, one of the things in most documents is, if you are not participating the way that we have outlined, we will take it away from you. And people are like, They can't do that, except they can, but I've seen it not happen because it's like a marriage. Let's go to counseling first. Let's see if we can work this out. Let's see if we can get our acts together and get you back on track before they ever take it away from you. So it's all just a safety mechanism.
Oh,
Not
yeah. And it's a full franchise termination. It's an extreme remedy. And there's
Mhm.
various registration states are going to have extra hoops for the franchisor to jump through. If they go down that road, it becomes disclosable in next year's FDD. So I know of no franchisors that are just out there saying, all right, they stepped out of line. That's it. I need to make an example out of this franchisee. It's too meaningful of a relationship, both
Right.
contractually and practically logistically too, right? Especially you're talking brick and mortar franchisees. Now you've got a lease that's been defaulted unless you can slide a new franchisee in right away. It's the same logic behind, what's more expensive, acquiring a new customer or keeping an existing customer happy, right? It's the
Right.
same thing with a franchise. While it may be difficult and there may be some tough conversations, or as you described it, counseling, mediation, whatever it might be, getting through those tough conversations is almost always going to be easier than just going contract and trying to drop termination notices in the mail at the slightest, deviation from the norm.
Right.
Some marriages are unsavable though, right? Literally and figuratively. Same thing with franchise relationships. They can be a bit jarring for some franchisees who come in and they realize I'm buying into a proven system and I'm here to run the playbook that the franchisor established because they've laid out a roadmap of success. If I follow this playbook and I lean in, I will be successful. If there's some things that are different about my market, then I need to be able to lean on my franchisor to help make small pivots and course corrections. But at the end of the day, I'm here to run a playbook, as opposed to franchisees who come in and say, oh, well, these guys have only even been in business for 5 years. I've got 30 years of experience in business. I'm going to take what they have built and run with it and do it all my way. Sometimes there's no coming back with that second group, right? So
Right.
I think the good way to front run that is at the beginning of the relationship, and you find out like, hey, look, yes, you are going to be an independently owned and operated satellite office of this brand, but within that independence, there's also a playbook to be run. And are you willing to, and are you ready to, are you excited to? We built this for you. We built this thing for you to run and operate. If you don't want to run and operate this thing that we built, that's fine. But then it just doesn't make a lot of sense for you to buy into the franchise system then. It's why you see
At least that one.
at least that particular one. Maybe that one's not going to be a good fit for you. That's right.
That's
And
what
we
we
see
do.
that's right. And that's what you do, Julie. You help connect people with things that are going to be, because people think that the franchise sales process, I saw a thing on Facebook the other day where it was, what should I be thinking about as far as gross or net margin numbers if to determine whether or not I'm going to be a good franchise offering for people. And I just kind of, I love doing this early morning, getting on these Facebook groups and answering some of these questions. And it was just kind of diving in and saying, there's a lot of things that come into play. Profitability is a big one. Sure. Right. A business without profit is not going to continue to exist, but there's a lot of other things to look at, right? Like, does the business have to be owner operated? Are you buying yourself a job, or can you hire a manager to run it? If you hire a manager, do you still have to spend 5 hours a week in the business, 20 hours a week in the business, 50 while it's getting off the ground? What is are you able to manage multiple territories or multiple stores at once? There's a lot that goes in. Is the brand itself, is it a good culture fit? Do you jive well with the ownership group that owns the franchise system, or are you guys going to be butting heads at every time that there's a little bit of a struggle that comes around the bend? There's a lot that goes into it beyond just profitability. It's kind of a question of, and maybe this is probably something that you guys ask a lot, is what do you want your life to look like? Right. I mean,
First question.
yeah.
It's all about lifestyle. There are thousands of franchises out there. Just because you see one, we always use this analogy. People go to, say, Cycle Bar, and they're like, I want to own a cycle bar. I love going to Cycle Bar. But do you want to work with Cycle Bar? There's a vast difference between enjoying going for cycle class
Yeah.
3 days a week and owning one. And
Hmm.
possibly you are brilliant for the franchise system, but maybe you need to own an HVAC company. Like there's so many different things to look at. Do you want to work 7 days a week or have to be available 7 days a week? Or do you want your hours of your brand to be Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's like all of those things when it comes to lifestyle is in our opinion, that's the first thing we get people to look at
Yeah.
because it's your life, right? And as we said, it's a marriage, a business partnership, and a few other things in between.
And it's so funny too, because you'll ask 100 people and, 10 of them will say, absolutely, cycling is my life. I want to be in there 60 hours a week. And
Yeah.
then 10 of those 100 will say, you could pay me $1 million a day and I'm not going to do that. So
Right.
it's, you just got to find the right fit, right? It's not,
Absolutely.
and you make a great point too of, especially a lot of people think that the kind of, I'll use the word the sexy retail brands
Mm,
are, now I'm a business owner. I own this brand with this. I'll tell you what, there's some not so sexy brands out there that provide valuable, needed services that kind of prop up, can be the backbone of a community. And they're not all that sexy, but they spit out cash like crazy.
yeah.
They don't require a ton of intense day-to-day oversight. You get the right team in place to help run them. So there's a wide world out there beyond just, people think that franchises are just, great clips and, haircuts and hamburgers. There's a lot more out there than just haircuts and hamburgers.
Don't get me started. Now, if you are interested in hearing more about the different franchise brands or anything around franchise, Kip and I are always here to answer questions. And if we don't have the answer, we have amazing people like Drew that we can reach out to and either send you in his direction or ask a question and get an answer for you. So thank you so much for being here today, Drew.
Of
What if
course.
somebody's like, I'm in a position, I'm ready to create that franchise, or possibly they're already looking at documents and they just need another set of eyes. How do they get a hold of you?
We've got several ways. Chalfant.com. There's contact forms for days. Our phone number is 888-644-1997. And info@rhodachalfant.com is going to come directly to you'll get a contact back within 24 hours through any of those channels. And yeah, I mean, we're in this for the long haul. So, when we partner with a brand that wants to go to market as a franchisor, we want to take a long view, right? And it is, I'll fully admit, it's a bit self-serving, right? If we don't help you not only get your legal documents done, but if we don't also help you at least set yourself up in the best possible way for success so that people like yourself can introduce that brand and they can actually get traction and get franchisees in their system. If you don't have franchisees, you're not a franchisor, right? And if you're not a franchisor, then you're not going to need a franchisor law firm. So it's not entirely self-serving, but we have a vested interest in our client's success, because if they don't gain
Right.
traction and if they don't move inventory, then we're just not going to be a value-added service to them any longer. So that's kind of, the approach we always take is, yes, your legal documents need to be sound. Yes, you need to be protected so that you can grow confidently, but you also need to be able to grow, which means that you need to be coached and counseled, not just on the legal side of things, but also, how do I find leads? Okay. When I catch the car bumper, when the dog actually catches the car, what do I do now? Right? Like, how do I move the leads through a sales process? How do I work with consultants and brokers like you, Julie, to help identify so that my brand can get seen? Because there's a lot of a lot of subtlety and a lot of nuance. It certainly isn't just you put up a Facebook page and say now offering franchises and all of a sudden there's a line out the door. I mean, there's a science and a methodology to, marketing yourself as a franchisor. And, I say this with humility and just with, gratitude of the experience I've been able to have in this industry to date. But we know a thing or two about all that stuff. And we're happy to share it. Like we want to share it with our clients because their success is our success.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you again, Drew, for being here.
Sure.
And I can attest to the fact that he knows his stuff. So if you want to reach out, I will actually put Drew's information in the show notes, so you guys will know exactly how to do that. But you can always reach out to us as well, and we will guide you in the right direction. So thank you everyone for your time and your energy today. If you have any questions, concerns, or cries of outrage, I love to hear them. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you, Julie. It was a pleasure.